Well, hi folks, welcome to the Old Classic Car channel. Today I find myself admiring lots and lots of classic cars that are coming up for sale, or rather coming up for auction very quickly indeed. Today it is the Wednesday the 16th of July and I am at Manor Park Auctions here in sunny Runcorn. I'm going to have a wander around, see what cars are entered, and yeah, this should be really quite an interesting walk around. Bit of a mix of cars as always, some later cars, modern classics, retro cars, and indeed some pre-war cars as well. So as always, I'll try and feature a little bit of everything, but focus mainly on the older cars because that's what I'm all about really. So without further ado, let's have a quick look around. There was a bit of rain earlier, so I'm going to concentrate on the cars behind me and over there outside, and then head indoors and see what we can find in there. But yes, had a quick look on the auction website last night and there seemed to be quite a mix of cars entered, so that's always really quite exciting indeed. If there's any particular car that really floats your boat, then check out the Manor Park website. On there you'll find all the details about bidding. The auction itself, which takes place this coming Saturday, it's a live auction, so it's this Saturday, I think the 19th, I think that's right. So yeah, all the details are on there, so I won't dwell too much on the paperwork side of things. All the details are on the Manor Park site. So anyway, I'm here to look at cars, so let's go and look at some cars. My chariot for today is the Jaguar XJ8, and just over here, the first car that we're going to look at in this video, this magnificent old Bentley. I think this is 1954 Bentley R-Type. SAR 271, looks like the original registration on there. Very handsome motor car indeed. Ooh, we've got a Del Boy mobile over here, the Reliance Super Van 3. This is the van version of the Reliance Regal. Like I say, all the small print on each particular car is on the website itself. Lots and lots of details there. Like I say, I think this is 1954 Bentley R-Type. 6,000 miles showing, auto, MOT May 2026. Pretty cool. Estimate 15 to 17, and it's recently been recommissioned at a cost of 18. So there we go. That looks like it could be a shrewd buy for somebody. Obviously do your own checks. There are several viewing days coming up between now and Saturday, so I urge you to pop over here if at all possible and check out any of these cars in the metal, because there's no substitute really for looking at cars in the metal. And wowzers, I must admit, I do love the interiors, especially on this era of car. Even if the door is open, I have to be a bit careful. But oh yes, door opens very nicely. Always have to be a little bit careful. Looks super original, the interior in here actually. I'm guessing certainly smells like the original leather, and it's in actually pretty good nick. Just a bit of split in there, but I don't think you'd worry too much about that. But beautiful dash. It's a lot of car. If this comes anywhere close to the estimate, then it could be a very nice buy indeed. Right, let's carry on. Got a Rolls alongside Silver Spirit, I suspect. Looks like a Silver Spirit, and the Silver Spur alongside. The Silver Spur, I think, was the longer wheelbase car. Certainly looks like it, the length of the window, the length of the back door, compared to the Spirit alongside. Clearly very related. I think that's the one that really catches my eye, but I always get drawn to the older stuff. So like I say, we'll just have a bit of a shufty at everything, just in case there's something here that floats your boat. This is a V10 powered Audi S8, lot number 302, estimate 7.5 to 8.5. So a bit of a mile muncher, that one, if that is what you're looking for. Mercedes, and alongside the Jaguar S-Type R, so that's the supercharged S-Type Jaguar, so the 4.2 litre V8 engine in that one, whereas the X308 era of Jags, the supercharged XJR, had the 4 litre. These, the S-Type R, had the 4.2 only. Better timing chain tensioners on these, and a few other worthwhile mods as well. What's the estimate on this one? 2002, 7 to 8, so it's, you know, what, 23 years old now. Pretty good looking car. Overall, not that keen on S-Types, but I do think the S-Type Rs do look actually pretty neat, with the blacked out chrome and the body colour grille. The mesh grille looks way better, I think, than the chrome grille on the regular 3-litre V6s, and so on. Bentley alongside that. Let's have a quick shufty just to get an idea of where this one's priced at. Continental Flying Spur. So what have we got on this? 9 to 11. That's a lot of car. More Bentley action over here. And what do we have up on the back row? Little 106 GTI, little Peugeot 106. Neat little hot hatch. What does it say here? Only 2 former keepers, presented in rare Sundance yellow, our favourite colour. 71,000 miles, manual box. 2 former keepers. Estimate 6 to 7 on that one. A VW Beetle alongside, very, very bright red VW Beetle. What's the story with this one? 1973, rebuilt, 1641cc big bore engine. 54,000 miles, estimate 5 to 6. Always a strong following for VW Beetles. Mini here, a little Mini Cooper, I guess. Yeah, Cooper S. The rare HRRCC version, apparently. Lots and lots of work done on this one. There you go. No reserve. Circa 1984 Mini alongside, one of the original type of Minis, of course. B plates, about 1984 EY, that's a North Wales registration. Automatic Mini Mayfair, yep, 1984, low indicated mileage, 31,000. No reserve on that one either. I think the paint probably shows its age a little bit, but Minis, you're always looking around here. And the hinge panel, so that little sort of A piece down there, gutters, subframes, all that kind of thing. So you probably want to have a bit of a shufty underneath. Down here as well, this is always somewhere where you have to have a bit of a look at, so a bit of TLC required, but no reserve, so it could come at the right kind of price. More BMW Mini action here, and indeed classic Mini, sandwiched by the later cars. Lot 229 2000 Rover Mini 7, so reusing the old name, the Austin Mini 7 from 1959, but this is somewhat later, 2000. No reserve on this. It's a Cat D, so you want to check the small print on that one. On the face of it, doesn't look too bad. Right, let's carry on over here. So lots and lots of modern cars here. Mr. Paul Cowland, one of the directors here at Manor Park, is here also doing some videoing, so I'll try and keep out of his way. Oh, look over here, wonderful Fergie tractor, a Ferguson 35. What a Bobby Dazzler that is. Long-termers on the channel may remember we had a grey Fergie ourselves not that long ago. Oh yeah. Very, very nice indeed. And alongside that we've got a lightweight Land Rover on an N-Reg, so what's that, mid-1970s at some point, Royal Air Force. So notes the very, very different panels on these compared to your regular Landys. FAO 582N. What's the story with this one? Series 3 lightweight Red Arrows replica, 95,000 miles, showing petrol, runs and drives, right and drive, home market example. All the info is on there. No reserve again. Category C insurance loss vehicle, extensively damaged but repairable. Insurer decided not to repair. So yeah, but that happens quite a lot, to be honest. And look at this slice of early 1960s British motoring. So I think it's a 62 Hillman Minkx 1600 car. Very, very nice indeed. Let's have a close look at this, because this is right up my street. I quite fancy the idea of a little saloon of this era just to bomb around in, a bit like we did with the Standard 8, which has gone, well, it's gone off to a new home that's back up for sale at the time of recording. But yeah, I quite fancy something like this. 4 doors, a little bit bigger than the Standard, and usually they have really nice interiors in these. 2-tone paint job. I think it's been painted at some point in time. Let's have a quick look. A few little blebs here and there, but you know, let's have a look inside because it's locked. Not to worry, but it actually looks pretty good in there. Headlining, you can just about see it. You probably can't on the camera, but yeah, that's quite nice. Floor change as well, so if you're not into column shift, which I know some people aren't, and I sort of blow hot and cold a bit with column shift gearboxes. The Austin Somerset that I used to have, that was like stirring a pudding, whereas the V8 Pilot, which was also column gear shift, that was great. So it really is down to the individual car, how well it's been looked after, the mileage, the use it's had, how sympathetic the owners have been over the years. On the face of it, this is actually quite a nice little car. It's got the optional period Lucas reversing light on there. Looks like it's been re-registered at some point in time. WSY, that's one of those Scottish series that didn't get used very much back in the day, and for a long time DVLA used the SY series and SK and a couple of others for re-registrations, and that's probably what's happened with this one. Maybe it just fell off the DVLA computer back in the early 1980s. But yeah, quite a neat little car. You always have to look for rust around here on these. They can rot where the hinge goes onto the bulkhead through there. It's quite a complex, quite a tricky bit to get into there. So you'd probably want to pop the bonnet up and just have a bit of a look in there. Are they steel wheel? Yep, steel wings. Sometimes you get fiberglass ones, but to be honest, fiberglass wings never really fit very well. You certainly wouldn't get, you know, a decent fit like that with fiberglass wings. So yeah, interesting little car. Somewhat later is this, a VW Golf GTI Mark II from the mid 1980s, four-door car. Looks pretty sharp. So what's the story with this one? 1986, 5 to 6 is the estimate. So 1.8, 5-door, yep. Mars red, well, that's the colour, with the GTI cloth trim Pirelli alloy wheels, hence the P shape here. P for Pirelli, and indeed Pirelli tyres fitted, so that's all good. Steel sunroof, stripy trim. Yeah, all looks pretty good. I know hot hatches are popular. And what do we have here? 280 CE. So this is the 123 series Mercedes-Benz, the old E-Class that was introduced in the 1970s and produced through to the mid 1980s. And what makes this 123 different than quite a few is it is the two-door coupe version. These were quite swish. Even in the day they weren't super numerous. Obviously you had saloons and the estates. The estates are super duper popular. But this is the C123, the 280, so that'll be the 2.8 straight 6, I believe. Alloy wheels, headrests in the back. You can just about see those. Is this one open? No, it's locked. Not surprised really. But yeah. Yeah, the 280, that's probably the one to get, to be honest. Really well made. Nicely put together things these are. I've never had a 123, I've had several of these. This is the 124, in this case a wagon from the mid 1990s. I think I've had 4 124 series Mercedes over the years, so I'm a bit of a fan of these. So which one is this? 320, so it's the 3.2 straight 6. No reserve on that. Got a lot of history in the window actually, that'll be replicated on the website, so check that out. Obviously done a fair bit of mileage, looks like motorway miles, but to be honest motorway miles are better than stop-start in traffic, to be honest. There's a few little blebs on it here and there. Where you do have to check on these is around the rear side window here, because this can leak, and I remember that was somewhere that these cars can go a little bit rusty. So probably the bumpers could do with a lick of paint, but yes, it's got the makings, and being a 3.2, that's the largest of the petrol engines that they fitted in those. So I used to have one this colour actually, it was a 280, that particular car. I've had 230s, 300s and 2 of these facelift 280s. The facelift, I mean, it didn't really amount to much, but slightly shallower grille. The early E-Class, the early 124s had quite a bit chunkier grille. And talking of cars I've had in the past, look at this, a classic Saab 900 Turbo. This is a bit later than the one I had, but this will be the 16 valve job. They did the full pressure turbo and the light pressure turbos of these. Which one is this? Ruby Edition 1993, so one of the very last, I would have thought. 118,000 showing on the odometer. Yep, limited edition, exceedingly rare. 5 to 6. Category N insurance loss, apparently. I do like these. Very characterful and super practical. This one's got a rear wiper, which they didn't all have. Yep, 16 valve, pretty groovy 3-spoke alloy wheels. My first experience of these was the 79 900 Turbo that Dad had back in the early 1980s. Really neat car, super comfy, beautifully laid out dashboard. The seats are incredible in these cars. I could definitely see myself having another one of those one day. Let's have a quick look at the SP in the window, the small print. Yep, so 5 to 6. That doesn't seem bad. Category N insurance loss. Could be something, could be nothing. Yeah, handsome looking car now, I think. Right, let's carry on along the row, and we are back to Mercedes-Benz, and we have the Mercedes-Benz 190E, surely one of the most practical retro modern classic type cars that you can buy. If you wanted to run a classic every day, a car with a bit of character and indeed very well put together, you could do a lot worse than run one of these. Metallic paints, this one's got the mouldings down the bottom, that lovely interior trim. Again, this harks back to an era when Mercs were really well screwed together. This a 2-litre car, 190E. Some of these were petrol, some were diesel. This will be a petrol. Pretty natty set of Merc alloy wheels as well. It's got that little idiosyncrasy where this door mirror is a different shape to the one over here. Same on the 124 Merc estate that I was looking at just a moment ago. Lot number 256, that one. I think my youthful assistant is quite fond of those. And staying with boxy 3-box saloons, this one's somewhat older, mind you. It is a Mark V version of the Ford Cortina. So the last of the Cortinas that would eventually be replaced by the Sierra in the early 1980s. So it's 2-litre gear, very rare find in this condition, 32,000, showing automatic, a very pleasing example. 7 to 8 is the estimate, some paperwork with it, blah blah blah. Yep. Not a car you see all that often nowadays. One time these would have been everywhere. Looks pretty good, metallic paint really sets it off. The 2-litre gear, of course Gear used to be its own coach building company way back in the dim and distant past, but a long time ago Ford bought the rights to that and they used the Gear badge for the upmarket versions of their cars, and that continued for many years. In fact, that actually looks pretty good to go, to be honest. Got a 3 Series here, looks like a convertible with hardtop in place, one of the E36 cars. Let's see which one it is. 318i, dates to 2000, no reserve. Needs some work, but work you could accomplish at your own pace while still being able to use and enjoy it. Fresh MOT, no reserve, a very usable project opportunity. Lots of info in there. Now, how many of you watch this video remember these when they were everywhere? The Austin Maxi. This is a 1750, so one of the larger engine cars, and it has a tow bar. So you could put your Cotswold Windrush caravan on the back if you so desire. Yeah, on a V-Reg. It's got the silver and black plates, which is something that you can do now once a car falls into the historic class with DVLA, but you never would have had those on back in the day, but it's a fairly easy thing to fix. Maybe this is why it survived. The Zybart protection, who remembers that? But if you open those doors up, there'll be the little yellow plastic plugs where holes have been drilled in the door pillars and so on, and the wax injection sprayed in. So what we've got, 5-speed box manual. Yeah, these came out in the late right at the end of the 1960s, I think they first came out. The cable shift, the gear shift on the very early cars wasn't super popular, and that swiftly got changed, and then they soldiered on all the way through the 1970s with not really many revisions after that. Quite a practical car because it's a hatchback, it's a 5-door hatch. Was it these that you could actually lay the rear seats down completely flat and make like a bit of a bed out of it? So it's actually a really practical car. Okay, and something altogether later, a little bit sharper looking, arguably, is this Audi 80 Sport from, what's this, about 82 or 83? Pretty neat looking car. Interesting alternative perhaps to say like a Golf GTI. I don't know how the prices compare. This must be quite rare. 6 to 7. Ah, yeah, the Golf GTI for grown-ups, 1984 Audi 80 Sport, manual. Only 90 examples currently known to the DVLA, desirable sunroof model. There we go. That's actually pretty groovy. That would make a fun car. Looks pretty original. Got a few stone chips here, but that kind of says to me that it's not been tarted up for sale. So, you know, I don't mind a little bit of patina. I'd rather see that than things that have been hidden behind a glossy layer of paint. Lots of these original graphics still around. I like the pressed metal plates. Speakers on the rear shelf, pioneer. Who remembers cutting up rear parcel shelves to fit your own speakers? Quite an interesting car, that is. It's not something you tend to see very often at general car shows. So that's actually, even though it's a bit later in the kind of car that really sort of float my boat, I can certainly see the appeal of that one. There's a later Audi Coupe alongside on an end plate, so about 95-ish, 96, Audi S2 Coupe, 12 to 14. So this video really is just to have a quick wander around, see what cars are here, and if anything floats your boat, find out more from the offices here at the Manor Park auctions. Don't take any of these videos or comments that I make as recommendations to actually bid. Make your own mind up on that one. We have another E36 3 Series here, the Coupe. Oh, let's have a look. So many different engine variations were available in these. 316i. So this is a smallish engine one, automatic. Probably makes it quite unusual. Estimate is 5 to 6. People always tend to preserve the sporty ones first, the 325s, 330s, the M's and so on. That would actually be probably quite a good run around. Next to that, staying with Germany, we have the VW Corrado, the VR6 version. And this is the Peugeot 309 GTI. Pretty sharp looking car. It must be way rarer than a 205 GTI now. Seems to be loads of 205s pop along to the, especially some of the evening meets that we get to, but the 309s much, much less. Did they sell fewer of these? I do not know. I really don't know, but there certainly seem to be less of them around. 309 GTI on an F registration. Of course, this kind of thing, you're always looking at the plastic mouldings and the bumpers to see if they are in good order. All the badges, are they present and correct? Often you see restored cars of the 1980s like XR3Is, and they're either missing badging or the decals are in the wrong place. This has got proper badges, stick-on badges. But on the XR3Is you often see the decals, the transfers on the back in the wrong location. Yeah, interesting alternative to a Golf GTI or a 205. MG Metro Cup. Heavens. I wonder what the story is with this one. Track stroke hill climb car. Manual box, 1330, 4-speed straight cut gearbox, and it comes with a Brian James trailer, presumably that one over yonder. 5 to 6 is the estimate. Lots and lots of upgrades. 1330 central oil pickup, STR 930 cam, possibly Piper, roller rockers, block skimmed, head skimmed, short push rods, dyno printout from 2007, rated at 117.2 brake horsepower at 96 miles per hour. Means that this is a fast little metro. It's got a 45 Weber carb Jan speed exhaust, modified rads, straight cut, close ratio box, and lots of other things. Alloy fuel tank, roll cage as well. Yeah, interesting little car. Could you run that on the road? Don't know. You'd have to check up on that. The modern Rangy alongside for company. Let's have a quick shufty at the other remaining cars on display here outside the main auction hall, and then we will head inside. We've got a 3.6 litre Jaguar XJS Coupe, one of the pre-facelift cars, so still with the original shape buttresses and rear side windows. Very similar colour to our XJ8, to be honest. Maybe slightly lighter, who knows. We always want to have a good look around these sort of places. Feel steel edges, that's always encouraging. There would be a seam here, so it's had a little bit of paintwork I think round here, but there are probably very few XJSs that haven't had a bit of paintwork. I know our XJ8's had, I think it's had new front wings on it, our XJ, and some paintwork to match. Pretty cool. I do like the federal spec, the American market twin lamps. I do prefer those to the lozenge lamps that these typically have on them. So that's where we are today. A tweed interior. I wonder if that's like a fairly rare option. I'm not sure. Something big in the back. It says fragile on it, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Manual. So it's a manual 3.6. So you've got the straight six engine under there and a manual box. Yeah. Nice car. Not sure what's the guesstimate on this one then. Probably not huge, I wouldn't have thought. No reserve. There we go. So presentable XJS, 84,222 miles MOT till April next year. 6 former keepers. Yep. 222 brake horsepower, 3.6 straight 6. 5-speed Getrag manual gearbox. First registered August 1989. Arctic blue, or Arctic blue, with red line and half grey leather and cloth interior. Always have a soft spot for an old Jaguar. Look at this, a Toyota Supra, if I'm not mistaken. 2.8, oh yeah, Toyota Supra. C-Reg, so about 1985 or early 86. Would it have had a moulding along there? Possibly. Maybe it's in the boot, who knows. Automatic box. 8 to 12, the estimate. Lots and lots of pre-war cars inside, so I'm really looking forward to checking them out. We've got one of the early, the Mark 1 Mazda RX-7s, the rotary engine cars. The engine developed by Dr. Vauxhall. This is a 1986 car, manual, 11 to 13. Yeah, first gen RX-7 Coupe, black metallic green, grey cloth. Some history with it as well. Yeah, pretty neat. Quite an interesting sound these things make. Mazda persevered with rotary engines for a long time. It was really only Mazda and indeed NSU in the late 60s, early 70s that offered rotary engine cars. A little Triumph Spitfire. First car that I pieced back together was a Triumph Spitfire, one of the earlier ones. This is on an X, so it'll be the 1500, quite a late one in fact. I still like how they have the little M on the bonnet catches of these and the heralds and so on. M for Michelotti, the design house in Italy that originally penned the Spitfire and indeed the Herald. So 1981, no reserve, manual overdrive. There we go. So different tail end styling and bonnet compared to the earlier Spitfires. In fact, everything changed: the doors, the window shapes, everything. The windscreen on these is integral with the scuttle, whereas on the Mark 1s to 3 you had a separate screen frame and window. Yeah, neat little car. I remember when I was piecing my Mark 3 back together in the late 80s, a friend of mine got hold of one of these across the road, and he beat me to having a Spitfire on the road, but he did buy his already ready to go. And staying with older Triumphs, a TR7. This is a P registration coupe, so that's probably fairly early on. Looks pretty original. When you look at the paint, you often get an idea of what's original and what isn't. And this one looks to be pretty original. Not perfect by any means, but I do like original paint. I think once you repaint something, you do lose something. Often you can't help it. Cars eventually get to the point where they have to be resprayed, but as long as possible, I think, keep it original. I've never seen one with these shiny trims on. Not quite sure what that is. Was that a dealer fit option perhaps, or maybe one particular dealer offered that as a thing? I don't remember it. Maybe it'll say in here. It's a 76 USA left-hand drive example with time warp interior, manual, imported here 1995, 2 former keepers in the UK. Yeah. Supplied with rear luggage rack, pimento red, black cord interior. Sold to Portland, USA, where it resided until 1995, then brought back over here. Does suffer from some micro blistering all over, noticeable dents on the offside door, but it appears to be solid with no obvious signs of serious corrosion. No reserve car. So it's got a bit of history. It's done a bit of travelling, this one, back and forth across the Atlantic. Triumph TR7, and these big chunky bumpers. Yeah, really unusual. There's the old Leyland motif there on the filler. Chick Doig, quite a well-known Triumph and MG specialist. Not really seen there, but yeah, left-hand drive. Bit different to the norm, and like I say, this really wants preserving this original paint, because you don't see many of these still with the original paint. I'm not sure if Portland is a dry state or not, but just running hands round here, it's all the metal edges nice and clean. Something I do with our MX5 is always make sure, hose out the arches to make sure you don't get any mud build up, because that is what kills rear arches. But this one actually, yeah, proper nice sharp edges on that one. Let's just have a quick feel around here. Yeah, proper nice edges. So that's probably more solid than many of the cars that spent all their life here in the UK. And just to round off this, look at the cars outside. An Audi Coupe and something altogether more whizzy, Ferrari, offered in our next Platinum sale. So that's later in the year, not the upcoming sale this coming Saturday. Yeah, as always, real mixture of ages of cars here. We've got a lovely E46 Cabriolet and Alpina modded 3 Series BMW. Judging by those mirrors, it's an M. It's a B3, stunning alternative to the M3, 2003 B3S, 8.5 to 9.5, pretty sharp looking car. A Moke, this is one of the later cars produced overseas. This is an Australian one, it's on an S-Reg. Not yet, Australian built Moke, 10 to 12. The estimate on that, of course, these were, the design of these goes way back to the early 1960s. Originally designed with the military in mind, but they didn't seem to be too keen on the idea, so they became a bit of a hipster's car in the 1960s. Very nice little Mini alongside, and a slightly earlier Mark II Mini Cooper, I think, alongside that. So it's a Mark II, so it's got the slightly bigger grille compared to the Mark I, but still with the sliding door windows. Looks like a Downton tuned A-series in there. I like the quick release wing nuts on the top of the rocker cover. Still with dynamo, that's good to see. The twin SU carbs, brake servo as well. So that's pretty neat. Let's get a quick lowdown on this one. 1969 Mark II Austin Mini Cooper, previously restored. That's pretty neat, showing just over 5,000 miles, 15 to 17. Apparently this registration 3870VZ is being retained, so it will be on an age-related plate when it is eventually sold. Pretty cool. I like the extra tacho to the right of the main instrument binnacle in there, and the little extensions on the flick switches in the middle there, just to make them a little bit easier to reach, especially when you've got your seatbelt on. So yep, so Mark II, bigger backlights compared to the Mark I. Remains of the old BMC rosette in the back window. Pretty neat little Mini. Very neat. Somewhat later Mini alongside. Looks to be in really lovely condition on an E plate. So it's had about 88. Yep, 1988 Austin Mini 1000 City E, rare City E model in largely original spec, 33,000 miles, showing 5 to 6. Let's have a quick look in there. Very different compared to the early Minis. You can still very much Mini, the driving position is still very much Mini, but the trim had changed a great deal by this point in time. Backlights are still very similar, of course, although this era they do have the reversing lights built in. Pretty neat. Quite a late one alongside that. It's this lovely example with wood dash. So quite the array of Minis, proper old shape Minis here entered in Saturday's auction. What's the story with this? A Balmoral limited edition from 1999. And next to all the Minis is this lovely Triumph Stag. It's a 3-litre V8 engine, this one an S registration, so I'm guessing it's a Stag Mark II. Look at the wheels. If it is a Mark II, it would originally have had stainless covers along the sills, but at least this way you can see what's going on, there's nothing hidden. So there's a lot to be said for that. 1977, it's a manual box, because you could get autos as well. Recent resto, restored over the last 5 years, lots of bills and invoices. 12 to 14, driven to our premises by the vendor, MOT through to May of 2026. Yeah. Manual, that's probably the one you want really. Looks like it's got upgraded wood dash in it. Quite a lot of room for the rear seat passengers, which isn't always something you can say for convertible four-seaters. But yeah, what a good looking car that is. Like I say, recently restored. It's got the metal pressed plates, chrome. Oh, looks pretty good from here. Soft top hidden away under this lift up panel. The original sticker still on the sun visor, telling you how to fold the hood correctly. That's neat. There is also a classic bike auction coming up very, very soon indeed. I think the auction actually takes place the day before the car auction, but as Paul and the Manor Park crew are recording over in the main hall, we'll just have a quick shift at these. I don't profess to know a great deal about old motorbikes, but it's always neat to see quite a few of them. A little Honda here. It's got some age to it, isn't it? Lovely condition. I was looking at a Honda motorcycle the other day in a gent's garage, and he'd owned it since 1975. I think it was a 72 bike. It was only like 125 or 175, I think it was. but it was the most original bike I've ever seen, I think. It was just in incredible condition. You know, quite a few sporty little numbers around here. Look at this incredible machine over here. Wow. You want to be taking out shares in Brasso and various other polishing products if you ended up buying this beauty. 2005 Harley Davidson Road King. By gum, that really is quite the thing. Right, let's go back in the main hall and see if we can film the cars without getting in anyone's way. Well, I'll just keep my voice down and have a quick look at some of the cars here on the front row, because there are some real beauties. This magnificent machine up on the lift is a 1930s Derby era of Bentley. What a beauty this is. Like I say, I'll just keep my voice down a little bit so as not to get in anyone's way. What a magnificent four-seat Tourer we have here. I think it's about 1936, this one. Lovely leather interior. Seating for four, admittedly, if you've got fairly small knees. But, you know, what a magnificent car. Proper old Bentley. So this was from a time when you would order your chassis and then you would pick your chosen favoured coach builder to clothe the chassis in whatever body you particularly wanted to have, whether it be a Tourer, big four-door saloon, whatever it is you might want. The owner of this one chose to have it bodied as a four-seat Tourer. Bit of info in the window, let's have a look, because why not? 1936 4¼ Tourer coachwork by Rovin. 60 to 70 is the estimate on this one. Lots and lots of information. Magnificent looking car. So you've got the rear hinged doors. Let's go and try one of the doors to see how well they shut, because that's always the acid test on a car with an ash frame. How well do the doors open and close? And there is your answer. Beautiful. All these little chrome fittings as well. I like that kind of thing a lot. Don't forget to let me know in the comments which car, or indeed cars, particularly, look at that, shuts perfectly. Which car or cars particularly float your boat? Is there anything here that you're going to have a go at? Let me know as well if you actually have a bid and win something. That would be really, really interesting to hear about. And look at this. Now this takes me back a little bit. Just a few years ago I found a VDP 1300 which Dad ended up buying, and it was super low mileage, only about 15,000 miles from new, same colour as this. His was an automatic. They did auto and manual versions of these. The autos were single carb, the manuals had the twin SU carburetors. I'm not sure which one this is, but we'll have a look inside in a moment. But yeah, it was exactly the same colour as this. He even had his resprayed, and it was in condition very comparable to this one. Lovely looking car. The old Lucas fog range is there, set into the front panel. That was standard fitting on these Vanden Plas 1300s, the plushest of the ADO 16 vehicles, really. Absolute beauty. The chrome, this really is lovely. I know a lot of these ended up going to Japan back in the 1990s. They seem to be super popular over there, and quite a few of them have come back. Absolutely stunning, possibly the best in the country. So this is a manual box car, right? Okay, so this will have the twin SUs, low ownership. Originally supplied by Man's Garage of Chiddingfold, Surrey. First registered 22nd of March 1974, 15 to 17. That tells you just how good this one is, because anything less than perfect would be a fraction of that price. It's one of those cars where anything that is slightly substandard is not going to be very expensive at all, but the real best ones, the real minters, they're still going to be pulling pretty strong money. And this is a lovely, lovely car. All the wood fittings, picnic tables set into the back of the front seats as well. This really is A beauty. Clearly a very, very cherished car indeed. The chrome is nice on it. Proper number plates, look at that. The original plate. I don't think I've ever seen a right plate before. Apologies for the reflections. Yeah, lovely to see that. I do have a thing for old, age-appropriate number plates, and indeed registration numbers. Oops, there's a manual floor shift, 4 on the floor. Just like a big Mini really to drive, but with space for 4 full-size human beings. With the twin carbs and the 1275 engine, probably not a million miles behind the Mini Cooper in terms of the driving experience. These do go really, really well indeed. Originally designed by Alika Sigonis, as was the Mini, of course, and the post-war Morris Minor, so it came from good stock, the designer of this one. Super popular cars. I think these were like the best-selling cars, the AD016s, for something like 8 of the 10 years throughout the 1960s. They were everywhere, the Austins, the Morrises, not so many of these, the VDPs, or the MGs, etc. But yeah, super popular in the day, but very hard to find one as nice as this now with all the original seams. Like I was saying with Minis, you always want to be looking to make sure the seams are still there and have not been slathered over. But that, wow, just put your hand in there and it is just clean painted metal. It really is quite a special little car. And talking of unusual cars, look at this DKW. I say DKW, this is actually the slightly later Auto Union, but basically the same car, and it is the estate car version from 1960. What an incredible little car this is. 2-stroke power, 367XVN. It's right-hand drive, so that's a Billy bonus. And in beautiful condition as well. I need to have a look at this. Rear hinge doors, so that's nice. Let's have a quick peer in here. I do have a soft spot for old estate cars. I just think they are super practical things and way rarer, typically, than their saloon cousins. So it's a 2-door car, quite long doors, so clambering in the back shouldn't be too much of an issue. But yeah, look at that, single piece rear door. So you won't want to go parking too close to a wall if you want to open the back door fully. I love the original filler cap with the 4 rings of the Auto Union on there. That's really, really neat to see. Yeah, how many of those are still left here in this country? Must be very, very few indeed. Let's have a quick look inside. I'm guessing it's open. Yeah, that pings open nicely. Proper floor matting in there. Good door trims as well. Oof. I like these cappings as well. And they sort of curve as well, which is quite nice. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it kind of curves around, which is pretty groovy. Yeah. Column change. Great headlining as well. Yeah, that's my kind of thing. Don't think have I ever owned a 2-stroke car, apart from a brief dalliance with Trabants. No. But, yeah, I could definitely see something like that in the garage at OCCHQ. Is this the kind of thing that floats your boat? Again, let me know in the comments. And while we're over this side of the hall, Mark II Escort here, the 1.6 gear. Again, looks to be in super clean, super tidy condition. And again, proper plates on it. And the estimate, 25 to 27. Wow, 13,000 miles showing, manual box. So this was a posh one. You can see that with the plush interior trim. Yep, it's got a radio, cigar lighter, all the treats, all the bells and whistles. Yeah, look at the condition of that trim. It is quite something, that is. It's nice to see one that isn't a rally car. And next to that, this is a car you may have seen on the television going back 2 or 3 years. This was on the Salvage Hunters Classic Cars. This Vauxhall Viva HA on the period Dunlop alloy wheels. Very bonny little car. It looks quite a high spec one. I wonder which model this is. Is it the SL? Lots and lots of gauges in there, wood dash as well. Let's have a look, see which one it is. It's the Deluxe. There we go. On the D-Reg, so 1966. Estimate 10 to 12. Interesting car. Lots of original paintwork. I like that kind of thing. Quite a sporty steering wheel as well. Reminds me a bit of the one that was usually fitted to sort of Lotus Cortinas or the 1600E. Yeah. Tasty vinyl seats in there, the bucket seats as well. So, to be honest, if I was sat inside this, I would never think that I'm in an HA Viva. Most of the ones we seem to see are the lower spec ones, but I don't think I've ever actually seen one with an interior this plush. Right, so let's keep going over here. Bit of filming going on over the back. This is a Swallow Derretti of the mid-1950s. I think these were built from, they're only made for about a year or so, about 54 to 55. Apparently this one's quite well known in club circles. Based on the running gear of the Triumph TR2, so a little 4-cylinder engine, just over 2 litres in capacity. This one looks very original, wears its age on its sleeve. Interestingly, most of the Swallow Derrettis I've seen, and admitted that isn't too many, they usually have like little strips down the side which were originally sourced from the Austin A40 Devon. But that's not to say they all came equipped with those. Yeah, 1955, PON 419, yeah, 1950 sports car, lots of history. 276 made, that's not many, is it? This is Medici Blue, nice colour. Current owners own it since 2017. Purchased from ACA for £31,500, recommissioned in 2020, various bits and pieces overhauled. Now the estimate is 13 to 18. So if you like cars with original aged paint and a sporty little number that typically you're not going to see another one at any gathering you get to, maybe this is the car for you. The lovely little Swallow Derretti. And like I say, with mechanicals out of a TR2, it shouldn't be too difficult to keep it on the road, I would have thought. Nice hubcaps like those. Pretty racy looking little number. Interesting alternative perhaps to like an Austin Healey or something like that, or a TR3 or 4. But I actually prefer the styling of this to the TR2 and 3. This is actually a good looking car. Clearly well used, well loved. But there's a lot to be said for that. Right, let's carry on along here. Slightly later, so we'll just have a quick look at this. A Maserati. Is this a 3200 GT? Probably. Like I say, it's a bit modern really for what we're here for. Yeah, 2007. What's the estimate? 15 to 17. Pretty sharp looking car. Bit more videoing going on to my left, so I'll keep my voice down. Lotus here. And a 911 Targa alongside yet more wonderful old and more recent motorcycles. And I'll just have a quick shufty at these. Beautiful AJS there. Royal Enfield, Norton rather. Love that old body shell up there. A sort of scale body shell for a Vauxhall Viva HA. That's pretty groovy. But yeah, lots and lots of bikes coming up. Like I say, I think the auction for these is the day before the cars, so don't go waiting till Saturday if you're interested in one of these bikes, because if you leave it till Saturday, they will have already gone through. We've got a Velocette LE there, beloved of the police forces. Very, very quiet motorcycles. You could sneak up on the crims with one of those. Water-cooled engine, I think. We've got a Kawasaki Z200, a Biza, another Biza, BSA Birmingham Small Arms, the Matchless. It's got a 61 tax disc on it. That looks super original. The MZ, Honda. Let's keep going down here. Like I say, I just keep my voice down a little bit. This is in the September auction. There are one or two vehicles dotted around which are actually in later sales, but why not have a look anyway? BMW R80, that's a handsome son of a gun. More bikes here, Triumph, Norton MZ, 911 Carrera, very sharp looking car. I do like these in white because it really shows off the black accents. That's nice. Right, let's stay over this side just to keep out of the way. Royal Enfield, Norton, another Norton, a Douglas. No, you don't see Douglases too often. What's the story with this? T35, 1947. Oof, 3 to 5. That is pretty neat. You don't see too many of those. I love the original sort of transfer on the side there. Carb there, feeding this cylinder. That'll be the same setup on the other side. Makes an interesting alternative to Triumphs and BSAs, that kind of thing, which you do see quite a few of. MZ, Triumph, and what do we have on the end here? Another Birmingham Small Arms. Pretty neat. Lots of off-road motorcycles, scramblers as we used to call them. Motocross, as they're probably referred to now. A Bull Taco. This one is actually sold. All sorts of things. You really have to keep your eyes peeled whenever you come to a viewing day at an auction centre like this. Like I say, if you can get down here before possibly bidding on something, I highly recommend it. Another Mark II Escort here, two-door car. So I quick shuffed it there just to see which model it is because there are so many. I don't know my Escorts all that well. 1600 Sport, 1980, South African import. Lots of cars are coming in from South Africa nowadays. Estimate 20 to 22. Yeah, pretty neat. Yeah. And look at this, Mexico Mark I, the 4 CB Oscars on the front. That's a sharp looking car, that is. And what's the estimate on this one, I wonder? 21 to 23, 1969 Ford Escort Mexico Evocation. Right, okay. So this is a recreation of the Mexico. And look at this magnificent Merc behind it. Oof, that's a bit tasty. North Wales Reg, 1966. And that's the Coupe. Look at that, how swish is that? Beautiful interior. The wraparound, sweeping dashboard. Proper Britax belts in there as well, like that sort of thing. Radiomobile radio, the old wireless in the centre of the dash there. But yeah, what a handsome car. These coupes are just incredible looking, I think. Very, very nice indeed. Usually double the price of a regular saloon. 24 to 26. Very nice. 2 auto box, 220 SEB coupe. Yeah, 52,000 miles showing. Yeah, pillarless coupe. Great chrome on it. Just look at that. Can you imagine how much it would cost to restore a ropey one of these now? The good thing with these is Mercedes still supply lots of parts for the older models, but at a price. Yeah. Lovely car. That dark blue really sets off the chrome a treat. Let's have a quick look around the back. Yeah, what a cracking looking car. Classic Range Rover over here alongside a super sharp looking Series 3 E-Type, the 2+2. So that's got the V12 with the manual box. Bright, shiny red example. Presumably had the full resto in the not too distant past. Yeah, pretty tasty. Right, let's carry on down here past the rangy, very sharp looking Range Rover Ferrari, and a TVR Supra. So these were longer wheelbase compared to your Chimeras and that kind of thing. And the fixed roof. Let's have a quick look at the blurb. Lovely blue metallic paints. 4.5 Supra from 1999. Estimate 17 to 19. They've even got some seats in the back if you want to pop someone in there. Pretty wild inside. Pretty bonkers car. So, established classics, modern classics, retro cars, bit of everything here. And alongside that, we're going back further in time with a Lotus Elan Plus 2. So this was the Lotus Elan for the family man or woman. Because Plus 2, we have extra little seats in the back. Not huge, but better than nothing. And very sharp looking car indeed. I do like these. I think I could probably fit in one of these, whereas a regular Elan, not so sure. It looks like a very agreeable place to be. Like the TVR fiberglass body, so when you're looking at these, you're always having a close look around, especially around the edges and the corners for any stress cracks in the bodywork. Very distinctive sound to fiberglass when you give it the tap-tap test. Pretty neat, and pop-up headlights we like. Pop-up headlights here at OCC. Right, I'm in the main hall now. I'll try and get around here reasonably quickly. There's a bit of filming going on, but way over the far side, so I should be okay over here. I'm quite conscious that the last video I did here was a bit on the long side, so I'll try and speed up a bit. We've got a rubber bumper MGB Roadster here, 1978, 5.5 to 6.5. Until we got our Roadster that we had for a few years, until just 2 or 3 years ago. I was always a bit sort of MGB, kind of see them everywhere, which you do. But I was really impressed, especially with the background in spending times with Triumph Spitfires, which are always a little bit on the rattly side. I was always really impressed with how well the doors shut. They always feel like really nice, heavy, solid doors. There we go, and that shuts really, really nicely. I never like to slam doors. So they've kind of grown on me a little bit, I must say. This one, of course, isn't our favourite colour of bright yellow, which we like that. Right, alongside an MG of slightly earlier days, this is the MG TD. So this was a replacement for the TC Midget, which came out in the late 40s, which in itself was based on the pre-war TA. But this is the TD. Steel wheels on these. Very popular in America. In fact, quite a few of the TDs that we see at some of the shows we get to did actually go for export when they were new. Of course, back then it was all about export or die, get valuable foreign currency in, export all those, as many cars as you possibly could. And directly after the war, your allocation of metal to actually make new cars, if you were a car manufacturer, was largely based on your ability to sell cars overseas. The more cars that you sold for export, the greater the quota of materials you would be granted. This during the rationing era. And here we are back to TVR, one of the S series of TVRs. This is an S2 from 1989 V6, 5 to 6 Cat C loss back in 1989. Well, certainly a long time ago. I forget which cat or category of insurance loss is which. There are several. Some are important, some are not. Some are just cosmetic, to be honest, but it's always worth double checking. Yeah, pretty sharp TVR and a great colour as well. Here we have a TR4, this one with the Surrey top, so the best of both worlds. You've got a hard top when that panel is in place, and then if you want a bit of open air motoring, wind in the hair, or wind in where the hair was, you can remove this panel, put it somewhere. I'm not quite sure where you put it. Do you put it behind there, or does it fit in the boot? Answers on the postcard please, but yeah. And then if it starts raining, you pop the panel back in, and you've got all the advantages of a hard top, including glass rear window, which is always good. This has got a heating element in it as well for rapid defrosting. That's assuming it works. I do like these TRs. I much prefer, speaking personally, I much prefer the 4s, 4As and 5s compared to the earlier TRs. But that's just me. I know lots and lots of people like the TR3s and so on, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I do like this era of TR myself. And alongside that, a Ford Capri, which is going to be in this September auction. So Capri enthusiasts, you'll have to wait a little bit longer before having a go at getting your hands on that. Yeah, lots and lots of cars around here. So let's get going and have a proper look around and see what else there is here today at Manor Park auction. I did say earlier on that there are some pre-war cars entered in this auction, and here we have a selection of them. Now this one on the end here, this is a bit of an oddity. This is a, well, it's kind of bullnose Morris, so late 20s, but this shape of radiator was unique to the van versions, the commercial variants that were sold alongside the bullnose Tourers and saloons, etc. And it would appear that someone at some point in time has taken a van and then started to fit this body on the back. I'm not quite sure what the story is with this body, but it's clearly not factory. Yeah, someone's made this up, but it's probably not quite finished, so they're kind of going for a vintage open car look, but not kind of, I don't think it's fully completed. But if you can look beyond the unusual shape of bodywork, there is actually an interesting project to be had there. Even if you took all that off, lose all this, because it's a separate chassis, so all this will be bolted on, you can actually put that back to a van, or maybe even make a really nice pickup. These doors look like they could be original, maybe, but if you finish that off behind the doors, sort of down here, put a little wooden body on it, you would make a cracking pickup, and that would bring it back to being closer to what it was when it was new, i.e. a light commercial vehicle. So I'm not sure what the no reserve on this. 1928 Morris Cowley. Current ownership since the mid-1960s. Started out in 28 as an 11.9 horsepower light van. Yeah, so commercial one because of that shape of radiator. And that is what I would be inclined to do. If that came for not too much money, I would myself lose that backwards, keep the wings obviously, but they're bolt on, and I would make a pickup out of that. Keep this, there's nothing wrong with this. Yeah, that would make a fantastic pickup, and it wouldn't be heresy to do it. There's been a few interesting sort of homemade repairs there, but if you weren't too fussy, if you weren't going to make a Minter, and let's be honest, it's never going to be original again. It's highly unlikely someone will put this back to being a van, but you could make a great little pickup out of it. Obviously you wouldn't chop up an original vehicle now, but the original body is long gone, probably 50-60 years ago that went. So really you've got a blank canvas to kind of do whatever you want. That is what I would do with it anyway. What would you do with this one? Let me know in the comments. Always good to read your thoughts. Right, let's get going again. And this is a lovely little Austin 10 Conway, I think. So it's a 4-door, but the centre of the roof is canvas, and you can roll this back. So the doors are fixed. The top of the door frames and everything is all fixed, but you can have open air motoring by rolling this back all the way back down to here. So it's actually quite a rare variant, to be honest. ACO 157, the registration number. Beautiful. Very, very dark blue over black. Let's have a quick shufty in here. What a beauty. Lovely little mirror on there like that. Yeah, look at that original trim. Got a rally plaque over there, 2021 ATDC National Rally. So ATDC is the Austin 10 Drivers Club. I used to be in that. Yeah. What a beauty, lovely trim. I think the material on the roof has been replaced at some time. That looks to be in great condition. Carpets fitted, lovely smell as well. But yeah, they go quite well, these do. What size engine are the Austin 10s? Sort of about 1100 and something, maybe a fraction bigger, I'm not quite sure, but let's have a look. Yeah, so you got the radiator cowl, the painted radiator cowl came in about 35, 36. The Austin 7 Ruby had a very similar front end. So this is a Conway Cabriolet, it's a 37 this one. Extensive restoration, no reserve. Wow. That could be a good buy for someone. I love pre-war cars, but not everyone does. But as a result, it means lately there have been some really great buys around. If you want an interesting car with a bit of character and where you feel a sense of achievement after every journey out, you could do probably a lot worse than this. Spares and advice are available for these Austin 10s. They were built for quite a few years. This was a contemporary of the Austin 10 Cambridge, the four-door saloon. But that is a lovely little pre-war Austin, very, very usable. And with a fold-back roof, a bit of fun on a nice sunny day. Now, we are going somewhat more up market with these two. Magnificent Rolls Royces. Absolutely stunning cars. This, I think, is a 20 horse. I forget the year, late 20s, about 27 or 28. Let's have a quick look. 1927 Tourer, coach built, YT7222 is a registration number. 20 to 22,000. This masking tape, I believe, was put on just as a temporary thing when some trim work was being done, which I'm guessing is probably this hood. This looks to be pretty recent. And it was just not removed, so you'd have to carefully peel that off. But it may be a little bit sticky, so you might have to just be careful with that. Well, what a magnificent car that is, £20,000. I mean, it's a fair chunk of money, don't get me wrong, but just a few years ago, I'm sure this would have been estimated at a lot more than that. What a glorious car, loads of room in the back. And look at this magnificent screen. I'm guessing this is an Oster screen. Oster was the make, but this is a rear screen, a fold-up screen to give some wind protection to the people sat in the rear compartments. People in the front have got the windscreen and they're quite well protected. I remember in our 20s Dodge, people in the back used to get blown around quite a lot. But if they'd had one of these, that wouldn't have been the case. But yeah, this is the 20. I'm sure it's a 20, wasn't it? Yeah. This was kind of the Rolls Royce for the owner who wanted to drive themselves. The bigger Rolls, the Phantom and the Silver Ghost, they were very much chauffeur-driven cars in the main. But by the late 1920s, lots of Rolls-Royce owners wanted to do the driving themselves. And as a result, Rolls-Royce came out with this. It's just a little bit more compact, a little bit easier to park. Very much designed with the owner-driver in mind. And alongside the Tourer, if you fancy your car with a fixed roof, maybe this 1933 2025 or more up your street. A fine pair of motor cars, but this is magnificent. Just a few years later than the 20 horsepower alongside. Thrupp and Mabley limousine, £56,000 spent in the last 20 years. Known history of all the previous owners, a lot of history in the window there. That's all replicated on the website. 20 to 22, 25 was spent on external paintwork and interior leather and wood trim back in 2013. Excluding labour charges. Wow. And the estimate now is 20 to 22. What an incredible car. It's a limousine, so you've got the partition here, the sliding partition, so the lucky occupants of the rear compartment can whisper sweet nothings to each other without the chauffeur earwigging. What a great old car. Proper quality thing. Big, heavy, sturdy doors. Very comprehensive dashboard. But yeah, lovely car. If you buy this, let me know in the comments, because I would love to have a ride in it. Only joking. Right. So two fantastic pre-war Rolls Royces, but there is much more to see. Right, let's carry on down here. I've got a feeling this video is going to be long again. Sorry, folks. Right, we've got one of the anniversary minis, the Mini 30 So celebrating 1959 to 1989, 30 years of Mini production. Yep. 1989, 69,000 miles, manual, no reserve. Quite a few cars with no reserve. No reserve means it'll sell for whatever the hammer goes down at. Quite a few Minis here today, actually. Aston Martin DB9 there, over 20 years old now. That's one handsome looking motor car, not a car I know anything about really, but certainly a good looking bit of kit, similar money to the Rolls Royces just over there. Very different car, very different buyer, I imagine. Right, just have a quick look here over here, Mini. So I'm getting close to a couple of really interesting project cars which I want to have a look at. Austin Mini 1000 Cooper S Tribute 1275 engine. Somewhat earlier Mini here, Mark II. Slidey windows, pull-back roof. I think the all-over black paint job was a special order thing. Cooper S. But what I really want to look at are these two incredible barn find spec restoration projects. Wow. This over here, this is a front wheel drive Cord. Originally it was the 810, this I think is the 812 series car. And then when Cord stopped producing these, was it Graham, I think it was called, the company put a few of these into production but not many. What an incredible car. 1938 Cord Model 812 right-hand drive, registered DFY 460, comes with paperwork plus the old style V5. In the present ownership since the early 1960s. No reserve, so again, you could be taking this home with you. What a rewarding project if you've got the skills to piece something back together properly. Wow, what an incredible car. I wonder what the story is with this. Has it always been here in this country? Who bought it new, I wonder? It has certainly cut quite the dash driving around the UK in something like this back in the 1930s. Wow. I love all these choke controls, etc. here, reminiscent of like an old airliner, sort of thing you might see in a Lockheed Constellation or something like that. Yeah, amazing shape. Headlights hidden behind these little panels there. Yeah, you have to use your imagination a little bit. But wouldn't that be really quite an incredible car? But even more jaw-dropping in many ways is this sensational Mercedes-Benz here, also from the 1930s. Clearly been sat for a jolly long time, and yeah, plenty to keep the budding home restorer occupied here. 1933 380k Cabriolet Type A, supercharged cabriolet. No reserve. Ooh. Wow. Comes with paperwork including a copy of the original selling and buyer's document. Full restoration required. Wow. Comes with Mercedes-Benz Club document outlining their findings and observations about this car. Isn't that just something? I mean, you'd really have to know your onions when it comes to coachwork and well, just about everything. Clearly it's had a bit of filler on it in the past. But look at this. Isn't that just sensational? If you knew what you were doing, if you could do most of the work yourself, you would end up with a seriously desirable car. Interesting to have a look at the chassis, separate chassis on this, which is probably built like a tank, but the upper coachwork, that needs a fair bit more. I won't even attempt to open the door. I think that would be a very foolish thing to do. Lots of bits and bobs in the back. Is it all here? Who knows? Clearly home to many spiders and other creatures for quite some time. But isn't it amazing that presumably up until not that long ago this was sat in someone's garden or lean-to in their garage. You just don't know when you're driving around what cars are tucked away behind hedges, fences and so on. I just want to have a closer look at the dash because it really is quite something, this car. Just sneak the camera in there. Look at that, can you imagine the view out of there when this was new back in 1933? What a sensational bit of kit. That's the mechanism for opening the windscreen. I would love to know what happens to this car if you watch this auction and you end up buying this, or indeed the Cord alongside. Please let me know your plans, and one day maybe even send me photos of the finished car, because often you see these restoration projects in auctions and car shows and so on, and then you never find out what's going to happen to them. Do they get restored? What happens to them? And in the case of something like this, it would be lovely to know that the car did go on to be restored. So I'll leave that with you guys watching the video. Yeah, if you end up buying this, please drop me a line. Right, now, Elvis, I think this is a 1270 Drope Coupe alongside the Merc in somewhat happier condition. Looks very original hood on here. A couple of in-period repairs, but no problem with that. Bit of stuff piled in the back there. Looks like the original carpets. The floor's out, probably just wooden floor panels. So a bit of fettling to do, but it looks like it seems to be together. I've not looked under the bonnet, of course. 1938 1270 Drope Coupe, one of 150 body. There's a Drope Coupe by Mulliners of Birmingham. So they did a lot of coach work back in the day for Daimler and such like. In fact, during the war they bodied my big old truck, the big green one. 8 to 10, the estimate on this. And a very swish motor car, real quality job. Rear hinge doors, proper coach work, steel over an ash frame. Did we try opening that? It does open. Gingerly opens the door. Yep, so a bit of dismantling's been taking place, maybe to refresh bits of woodwork perhaps. But yeah, what's that down there? There you go, Mulliners of Birmingham. Good to see that. Right, just carefully put that to. Never slam a door, he says. Right. Okay, let's try and speed things up a little bit. Jeep. Was this one here last time? I may have had a preview of this one last time I was here. So what's that? 42 Willys MB Jeep, restored in SAS desert colours. Lots and lots of jerry cans, all that kind of thing. That's nice to see. Certainly see you coming in that one. This is an Avanti. This was like a later sort of interpretation of the original Lotus Elan, but much newer. I think there's forward running gear on these. Let's keep going over here, back to the back row, and alongside a Jeep, the Series 1 Land Rover. Not too much of the original paint left on there, but it gives you a good chance to have a look at the body. All of these in the field repairs, riveted on. That gives you a good chance to see the aluminium body panels of the Land Rover. Apart from this bit, of course, the bulkhead is steel and they rot out, so you always want to have a good poke around at those. But this one appears to be okay. It looks like it's got new seats in it as well. Looks like a bit of fun. Of course, all the bits are available for old Land Rovers. Super popular. First came out in 1948. This is a 1953 Series 1. 791 XWD, the registration number. Originally supplied to Australia. 17 to 19. Would you keep it in the bare metal? Would you paint it green? I'm not sure what I would do. Oh, it's good to see the Queensland plate on the back. Yeah, would you restore this? Would you repaint it? Or would you leave it looking like that? I don't honestly know. Right, RS 2000 project alongside. Clearly plenty to do there, but the following for these is super great. And here a Rover 800, one of the pre-facelift cars, 4-door saloon. Oh, let's have a look at this. The Vauxhall Cavalier Mark 1. This one looks like a proper garage find. A little bit scabby in places, but it's original, and these things are only original ones. I reckon you could clean that up, as long as there's no major rot. This sort of thing, you could clean that up, get rid of the readiness of the rust, wax over the top of it, and that's not going to get any worse for many a year. So I reckon you could probably save the original paint on this vinyl roof as well, so it must be one of the posher ones. And it's got stripes down the side. Can we see which model it is? Cavalier. Yeah, proper 70s time warp job. The hardest thing to restore on one of these would probably be the interior trim. And to be honest, this one doesn't look too bad in that regard. I wonder where it's been stored. Nice original plates, R registration, slopey headlights, so it's quite a 70s sort of look to it, a bit like the Chevette, the smaller Chevette that was sold alongside this. The door is open, yeah. Just gingerly open that, just missed the pillar there. Can't see any cracks on the top of the dash. That's something you always have to look for on cars of this age, and indeed later, when they've been out in the sun for many years. You sometimes get cracks on the top of the dash, and that can be really tricky to fix up. TVR Chimera, we see lots of these around at shows. Aston Martin DB7, Porsche, so on an 03 registration. I think the estimate for this was only like 7,000 or 8,000. It's a Tiptronic 996 Carrera, yeah, 2003, 108,000 miles showing, yeah, 7 to 8. So not a huge amount of money to get you into a 911. And arguably you could say it looks way more of a car than 7 to 8,000, which doesn't buy you much nowadays. MGB Roadster alongside that. K registration, would have been a chrome bumper. It's been debumpered, which kind of looks pretty funky. It's got the centre lock mini light wheels as well. Nice colour as well. Leather bonnet strap as well, just for added safety. Debumpered, yeah. A few modifications around the headlight department, because normally these would also have the side lights incorporated within them, but this is all indicators, so presumably the side lights have been built into there. First came out in 1962. This is a 1972 car, so built 10 years into production, set up for fast road spec. Imported into the UK in 1989. It's got Weber 45 DCOE 152 carb, uprated disc brakes, coilovers, Canlo fan, overdrive, magnesium knock-on mini-light style wheels. Nice car, like I say, great colour. A number of Astons are in here. I've got a Corvette here. Mercedes-Benz SL, the R129 era of car, just in front of this very bonny white Mini Mayfair. Another chrome bumper MGB here. What's the story with this one? 1969, 7 to 8. And this has got the original style of front turn signal and side light on the front. Yeah, so this is the R129 SL. Lovely, real quality job this is. You get the feeling with cars like this that they would go on forever. Just look how thick and heavy the door is. Just real quality job. There's that MGTD in front of it. Open top Aston, the Volante. 1600 sport version of the Escort Mark II over here. Looks pretty tidy, that one. It's got silver and black plates that have been retrofitted, but personally I think I would put the proper reflective metal plates on it if it was mine, but it ain't. Yeah, looks to be great condition. 20 to 22 on the W Reg, so a really late example of the Mark II Escort, built shortly before the hatchback Mark III came along. Lots of very, very tasty cars. Let's not miss anything out over here. A couple of Bentleys. More sun. What is it? What is it? Turbo R, 1993. 1993, so it's in the dark green. So this was the Bentley version, or equivalent to the Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit, an example of which we looked at outside. Another turbo here. This one in a light blue metallic. And this, very nice. So what's the story with these then? So this one's 8 to 9, the green example. 4 headlights, which I prefer. This has got the lozenge, the rectangular headlights. And what's the estimate on this one? 15 to 17, 33,000 miles. Beautiful car. Originally built in Crewe, of course I'm not too far away from here. We've got an M3, one of the E36 M3 cabriolets, an XJS cabriolet with the federal spec lamps, it's a V12 I think, and a restored, now is this a 240 or a 340, which was the run out version I suppose of the Mark II. This is 1969 240. 11 to 13 is the estimate. So this has got the 2.4 XK engine. And these were, like I say, the 240 and the 340 were run-out versions of the Mark II, produced until such time as the XJ Series 1 went on sale. And this was actually sold just after the Series 1 XJ went on sale. The XJ was introduced in 1968, this is in 1969. So there was a little bit of overlap. Slightly different, I think the Ambler seats are standard in the 240 and the 340 as opposed to the standard leather, which was in the Mark II. Slimmer bumpers as well, more like those on the S-Type. Some people prefer the slimmer bumpers of these cars, other people prefer the chunkier, blockier bumpers of the slightly earlier Mark IIs, and I think I'm probably in that camp myself, but either way, great looking car, lovely looking machine. There's one for Harley, he'd like this. My youthful assistant, this is a 2.8 wide body Z3. I used to have a silver one of these, ran that for a while. Great sounding engine in these. Quite unusual styling at the front. These were built in America. So it's a 1999 wide body Z3, one previous owner, no reserve. Ooh. Yeah. Really cool car, enough technology in it to make it pretty much reliable. It's an auto, this one, so enough tech to keep it working, but not so much tech that it's forever going wrong. So this was probably the sweet spot really for cars in general, just enough technology to make them work on a regular basis on a winter morning, but not so much tech to go wrong a few years down the road. But yeah, neat to see that, a blast from the past. So yeah, a bit of everything here today in the Manor Park auction. So if you want a limousine, a wonderful Bentley or something pre-war perhaps, maybe a sporty job or one of the Aston Martins, you know where to come and look. But like I say, don't waste time because the auction is coming up very, very soon. It's Wednesday the 16th today. There are viewing days between now and the weekend, and the auction itself takes place on Saturday the 19th. So get your skates on if you want to come down here and have a check out of any of the cars that feature in this video. There. Thank you so much for watching this particular one. I think I will dash off now, get back home, edit this up and try and get the video out ASAP. So thanks so much for watching. Please keep an eye on the channel for future updates, and there'll be loads more videos along very, very soon. So bye for now. Ooh, I almost missed out these two Metros. That would have been very remiss of me. So let's have a quick look here. Metro on an F plate. So which one's this? Metro Sport. Possibly the rarest Metro variant. 35,000 miles, showing manual, MOT till July next year. No reserve. I expect good, unmessed with original versions of these are getting pretty thin on the ground. And next to it, the MG Metro Turbo. This is a fairly late one with these different graphics on the side compared to the earlier cars. This on a G plate. It looks to be in fantastic condition. Years ago, my mum had a Metro. I think it started out as a Metro Vanden Plas, I think. It had a stage 2 MG engine in it. By the time we got it, estimate on this one 8 to 10. What's that? One of 29 examples believed left on UK roads. It's a bit of a pocket rocket with a little turbocharged A+ engine under that bonnet. Right, now I'm definitely off now.